Aunt Marg, Magpie, which was her brother's nickname, and there are a select few out there that call her Mad Dog. You know who you are. She was born in Detroit, Michigan, 84 years ago. She was raised in Highland Park, Illinois, where she developed lifelong friendships, became Queen of the Prom, and graduated from Highland Park High School. Some of her fondest memories certainly were watching her brother John play football and run track. From there, she went on to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, where she finished in 3 years and graduated school at the age of 20. She was a Spanish major, of all things, in those days. And from what we could tell, como está usted are about the only words. She was a member and treasurer of the Kappa Alpha Theta sorority, and while a sister for life, she would laugh about being banned from the house after some postgraduate curfew violations. She never lost her close affinity for the Wolverines and her birth state, Michigan. Another little-known fact, she was raised as a Christian Scientist, and I believe her never-ending, strong, positive attitude came from that early upbringing. I remember a while back asking her why she had not continued with the church. She laughed and said she needed to move on from Christian Science a long, long time ago when she discovered cigarettes and bourbon. After college, she went to work for an advertising rep firm called the Branham Company. While there, a mutual friend introduced her to our father, Frank. Always described by Mom as the most devastatingly handsome man she had ever seen. Within 4 months, they were engaged. They married in June of 1951 and moved into a garage apartment in Evanston. Not too long after that, they bought the house at 237 Churchill Street in Northfield, where she lived for the last 53 years. Some time ago, I was helping her with something around the house, and I told her if she was going to ever sell the house, she was going to need to invest a little in fixing things up. And her response was, that will be your problem. She fully intended to stay to the end, and as it turned out, she did. It was at 237 Churchill that she raised her family during her part for the baby boom. She had 4 children in a little over 4 years. That included twins. She lost her husband there 29 years ago. But through it all, she created a house and a family that valued friends and family, laughed a lot, and always looked at the positive side of things. It was also a house known for a few good parties. Some of you may remember those parties. They always ended very late with the gang and Margie dancing to Frank Sinatra in the living room. In 1970, the Carroll house was struggling a bit, and at the age of 45, she decided to go back to work. Over the course of 20 years, she worked for 3 different companies, the last two of which were home builders. She took a great deal of pride in what she was able to accomplish in her work at that point in her life. She appreciated hard work and taught us all that success in anything didn't come without it. The last 20 years were filled with family, growing up grandchildren, visiting friends locally and around the country, and of course her incredible passions for golden retrievers, gardening, and her sports teams. No one was a bigger fan than Margie Carroll. For close to 40 years, she attended Bear games, almost never missing a home game. Rain, shine, or 10 degrees, it didn't matter. I was born in November, so we know she missed a few games that year. But other than a few instances, she was always there, all the way up until probably about 1990. Occasionally she was there and didn't see everything. We used to kid her about the day Walter Payton broke Jim Brown's rushing record. It was a big deal, so big that my sister Tracy flew in to attend the game. At the end of the first half, Tracy and Margie went down to the concessions and watched booze. Someone told them that the Bears were going to be kicking off for the second half, and Walter needed 60 yards to break the record. In actuality, the Bears were receiving, and Walter needed 6 yards. So they were, guess where? In the beer line. They missed the whole thing. Eventually, she was able to laugh about it. She loved the fact that I actually got a chance to tell that story to Walter Payton. And he laughed too. Margie attended her last Bear game in the fall of 2007. And she got to do that with her good friend, Liv Clark. And that was a very special day. Her Bears were number one. We actually, with this nice memory card, we have wonderful words on the back here. We did consider Bear down Chicago Bears. But we did not do that. In addition to the Bears, Margie loved the Bulls, and at the height of the Bulls championship years, you could not get her away from the television when the game was on. I remember asking her to a Saturday night party at our house, a great group of friends, and dinner, and she said, "No, can't make it." I asked her why. Her answer was, "The Bulls are on." I said, "We have a TV here." She didn't want to be bothered with people that wanted to talk and not watch the game. She loved those Bulls teams, and Margie got to attend her last Bulls game this past January. Margie was also one of those rare fans that rooted for both the Cubs and the Sox. Guess it felt, it was a rough 80 years. I guess she felt rooting for both teams doubled her chances for a winner. She attended many games, including a playoff game in 2005 when the Sox won it all. And we actually got her out to a Cubs game this past August, where she still did the scorecard, which is a lost art. I also thought it was fitting today being the only day, I guess, the day before the All-Star game, the only day of the year where there are no professional sports taking place. To the very end, Margie never lost her independence. Up until early March, she was still driving her own car. She was living on her own, taking care of her finances and her daily life. The last 4 months were difficult, but we saw so much of what made her special. She could be a bit direct, never mincing words, which meant you always knew exactly where you stood with her. She had a wonderful wit and a sense of humor, which allowed her to continue to deliver a few memorable one-liners even as her health continued to deteriorate. I recall one recently. She'd been in the hospital a few days, and after some particularly bad news from the doctors, she was left in the room with Frank and Nancy, and I guess probably after about 30, 40 seconds of just complete silence, she looked at Frank and Nancy and said, "So, how's the weather?" So she had great timing. She always knew how to bring a little levity when it was needed most. So in closing, she had many wonderful, enduring relationships over the years, as evidenced by all of you being here today. But what most defined her was her fierce love and loyalty to her children and her grandchildren. We feel the same about you, Mom. Thank you.